The story begins on Mars, a desolate, rust-colored world where a team of NASA astronauts is busy with their mission. The team is focused on collecting crucial soil samples when suddenly an emergency alert blares from Mission Control. A catastrophic dust storm is hurtling straight towards them. The commander issues an immediate, frantic order. Mission aborted. Everyone, move to the ascent vehicle now. The entire group races toward their shuttle. But then, disaster strikes. Mark Watney, who is an astronaut but also the team's botanist, is hit by a heavy piece of debris. He is swept away and lost in the fierce gale force winds of the storm. The commander tries desperately to find him. She checks the radar, issues communication calls, but there is no response, no signal, no trace. Eventually, the team is forced to make a devastating assumption. Mark is dead. With heavy hearts, they climb into their ascent vehicle and leave the red surface of Mars behind, heading back toward Earth. The storm has passed now. The surface of Mars looks tranquil once more, but the story is far from over. Slowly, the camera pans across the crimson dust, and there, lying on the ground, is Mark Watney. He is alive. A long metal rod is buried deep into his suit, right through his stomach. The pain is unbearable, but he refuses to give up. Crawling inch by inch, he drags himself toward his shelter, that small base where he and his team once lived. Somehow, he makes it inside, treats his wound, pulls the rod out, seals the gash, and collapses on the floor, completely drained. When he wakes up, a chilling truth hits him. He's the only human left on this entire planet. No contact, no signal. All his equipment destroyed in the storm. The rest of his crew believes he's dead, but he's alive. And now, survival is entirely in his hands. NASA's next mission is 4 years away, and it'll land 3,200 kilometers from his location. That means, if he wants to live, he must first make it there alive. But the biggest problem? Food. He has rations for just a few days. 4 years? Impossible. Unless he finds a way to grow food on Mars. Among the supplies, he finds a few potatoes, and that becomes his ray of hope. He decides he'll grow potatoes, right here on this red lifeless planet. But there's a catch. He's got soil, but it's sterile. And the most important thing, water, doesn't exist on Mars. Mark Watney is a botanist. He knows exactly what plants need to grow. He gathers soil from around the habitat, prepares it carefully, plants the potatoes, and now he needs just one thing: water. Then it strikes him. Water can be made. Hydrogen gas plus oxygen gas equals water. He's got both. The oxygen is in the hab's air. The hydrogen? He'll get that from the remaining hydrazine fuel used for the lander, decomposing it with an iridium catalyst. So he sets up an experiment. He mixes the generated hydrogen gas with the oxygen from the hab, planning for the correct mix. He ignites the flame, but the first try goes boom. A massive explosion rocks the hab, knocking him back. He realizes his mistake. He miscalculated the stoichiometry. He had created a massive hydrogen excess, leading to a flash fire that nearly destroyed his water efforts before they even started. But Watney doesn't give up. He recalculates, and this time he changes his oxygen source. Instead of using the raw hab air, he carefully draws down oxygen from the atmosphere revitalizer, air-reg, which gives him precise control over the mixing ratio. He seals his makeshift reaction chamber, ignites the flame, and this time it works. Steam rises in the air, tiny drops of water begin to form, and the dry Martian soil slowly turns moist. Days pass, and then, from that soil, a tiny green sprout emerges. Watney looks at it and smiles, because he knows he's just created life on Mars. Meanwhile, back on Earth, NASA makes an official announcement. Mark Watney is no longer with us. The news spreads everywhere. Hero of the Mars mission, lost in the storm. They even hold his funeral. But the very next day, something strange happens. A satellite operator who monitors images every day notices something unusual. Some of the equipment that used to be in one place has now moved. She immediately calls her seniors. Everyone gathers around the screen, staring in disbelief. Then, a voice breaks the silence. Someone moved those. Everyone freezes, and then one senior whispers, "Mark Watney is alive." For a moment, hope fills the room, but reality hits just as fast. "Yes," the senior says quietly, "he's alive. But for how long? Because reaching Mars takes months, and by now, they believe he must have run out of food." Back on Mars, Watney has completed 70 days of survival. He's keeping track of every single detail. He knows NASA's next mission will land after 4 long years and 3,200 kilometers away from his current base. That means, if he wants to survive, he'll have to make that journey alone. He pulls up his calculations. His rover can travel only 35 kilometers a day, because the solar panels need to recharge every day under the weak Martian sun. Watney does the math. If everything goes perfectly, it'll take him about 50 days to reach there. Back on Earth, NASA is now working tirelessly. Their mission is clear: bring Mark Watney home. Scientists are working day and night, trying to figure out how to send him food and supplies. But it's not an easy task. Just the preparation will take 3 months, and once the supply craft is launched, it'll take another 9 months to reach Mars. In total, 1 whole year of waiting. Up there, on Mars, Watney's life now hangs between farming and survival. It's been 48 days since his potato plants started growing. He's filled with joy, because he's managed to grow nearly 400 plants, far more than he ever hoped for. He harvests the potatoes, plants the smaller ones back again, and for fertilizer, he uses his own waste. But he knows one harsh truth: growing potatoes alone won't save him. If he can't contact Earth, it's all over. So, he sets out on a mission to find something old: Pathfinder, the machine NASA sent to Mars in 1997, which went silent years ago. Watney climbs into his rover and begins the journey. Meanwhile, NASA's team on Earth is watching his every move through satellite images. They quickly realize Watney is going after Pathfinder. Days later, he finally reaches the site. Amid the wreckage, he finds the old Pathfinder. He repairs it, cleans it up, and brings it back to his base. But the system is ancient. It can only send pictures, not words. So, Watney comes up with a new idea. He sets up 3 boards in front of the camera. The middle one says, "Do you receive my signal?" The left board, "Yes." The right one, "No." He waits, and then the Pathfinder's camera slowly turns toward YES. Watney smiles, because now he knows Earth can see him. Using symbols, numbers, and signals, he begins communicating with NASA. Bit by bit, a fragile connection forms between Earth and Mars. NASA sends him a message: "We're sending food and supplies for you." There's relief on Watney's face, but then he learns something unexpected. NASA hasn't told his crew yet that he's alive, because his crewmates are still in space, on their way back to Earth, and they still believe Mark Watney is gone. Out there in space, his crew slowly travels home, toward Earth. And then, NASA finally tells them Mark Watney is alive. For a few seconds, silence fills the cabin. Then, emotions take over. Tears of joy, mixed with guilt. Joy because their friend is still alive, and guilt because they left him behind. But there's nothing they can do now. They're too far away. Meanwhile, on Mars, Watney's life starts to settle again. Everything seems fine. The potatoes are growing, the shelter is stable, but fate had other plans. One day, out of nowhere, boom! A massive explosion shakes the very place where he'd been growing his potatoes. The entire shelter trembles, and within seconds, all his hard work, all his crops, destroyed. The environment he had built with so much effort, the oxygen, the humidity, the warmth, everything is gone. He can't grow food anymore. NASA quickly runs the numbers. The potatoes Watney has left aren't enough to keep him alive for another year, which means by the time help reaches Mars, he'll starve to death. So NASA sends him a message: "Mark, you'll have to ration your food very carefully, as much as you possibly can." And Watney does exactly that. The food that used to last him one day now has to last 3. Every bite counts. Every breath matters. Meanwhile, on Earth, NASA is preparing a new supply rocket filled with food, medicine, and survival gear. But time is running out. So, they skip some of the testing and decide to launch early. The rocket blasts off. Everyone's eyes are glued to the screen. And then, in the sky, a ball of fire erupts. The rocket explodes, the supplies gone, and with them, hope. The control room falls silent. Heads lower, because now, no one can save Mark Watney. When Watney learns that the launch failed, he's shattered inside. Around him, nothing but silence and red dust, exhaustion on his face, but still, no surrender. He sends a final message to NASA. Make sure this message reaches my parents. I'm not giving up, but I'm ready for whatever comes. Tell them, I love what I do, and I was good at it. And if I die here, let it be for something meaningful. Tell them, I didn't fear the storm. I faced it. Back on Earth, NASA had almost given up hope. Everything seemed over. But then, China stepped in. They had the technology NASA desperately needed. Together, both nations joined hands and planned a new launch in just 28 days. Meanwhile, a young scientist named Rich, working in astrodynamics, comes up with a crazy idea. He says, what if the spacecraft that's bringing the crew back to Earth doesn't actually land? What if it just flies past Earth's orbit? We can send the supplies from there and use a slingshot to send the ship back toward Mars. A slingshot, using Earth's gravity to catapult a spacecraft across space. Rich explains, when the ship reaches Mars, it must not land, because if it does, it'll run out of fuel. Watney will have to reach the MEV, the small launch vehicle already on Mars. From there, he'll blast into orbit, and the crew will catch him mid-space. The plan was insanely risky, but it was the only hope left. And now came the toughest battle, because saving one man's life could cost 5 others. NASA knew the risk. If they wanted to reach Watney in time, the crew would have to stay 533 more days in space, over a year longer than planned. So, NASA makes the heartbreaking call. No, we can't risk 5 lives, for one. But on the other side, Watney refuses to give up. He keeps working, finishing the mission that the storm had left incomplete. Meanwhile, on Earth, engineer Rich Purnell creates a plan that could turn the impossible into reality. He somehow manages to send that plan to the 5 astronauts still aboard Hermes. And then, without NASA's permission, those 5 make a bold, life-changing decision. We're going back for Watney, no matter what. When NASA realizes the Hermes spacecraft has changed its trajectory, everyone understands. They're heading back to Mars. And this time, NASA decides to stand with them. Even China steps in to help. Meanwhile, on Mars, Watney prepares for the most dangerous mission of his life. He must reach the launch vehicle that'll take him up to orbit, where the Hermes crew is waiting for him. After 90 long days of solo travel, Watney finally reaches the site. But there's a new problem. His launch vehicle is too heavy to lift off. So, Watney begins stripping it down. Every bolt, every panel, every system, for one single goal, make it light enough to touch the sky, and maybe make it home alive. But danger isn't over yet. If the Hermes crew tries to land on Mars, they'll burn all their fuel, and they'll never make it back to Earth. So now, everything depends on Watney. He has to cut 5,000 kilograms off his ship. Without hesitation, he throws out every part, every piece of equipment, until only the essentials remain, and along with them, his unbreakable courage. And then comes that moment, when the whole world's eyes are on one man, Mark Watney. Watney takes off his craft, slowly rises, leaving behind the red planet. As he enters space, everyone holds their breath. No response from Watney, because the pressure has knocked him unconscious. Moments later, a faint voice crackles through the radio. "This is Watney. I'm alive." And the entire mission control erupts with joy. But it's not over yet. Watney's speed is too high. Hermes can't catch him. Watney transmits a daring, desperate plan. "I'll cut my suit's glove and use the escaping air pressure to push myself toward you." Everyone yells, "No, it's too dangerous," but he has no other choice. It's the only way to generate enough thrust to close the gap. Meanwhile, the Hermes crew destroys part of their own ship, the nose cone, to slow down, and now Watney is flying toward them. The commander goes out on a tether, reaches out, but the rope runs out, just a few meters apart, and then Watney does it. He cuts the glove on his suit. Pressurized air blasts from the hole. shooting him toward her like a bullet. For a second, it seems over. Their hands almost touch and slip apart. But then, Watney grabs the rope, and finally, he's home. After storms, isolation, and impossible odds, Mark Watney returns to Earth. Not just as a survivor, but as a living lesson. Now he teaches new astronauts, when you're stuck on another world, when everything seems over, math, science, and courage, these are your real weapons. He smiles and says, if you're in trouble, solve it. If that doesn't work, solve it again. As long as you're alive, never stop trying. And with that, The Martian ends, a story that reminds us that no matter how impossible life gets, if a man decides to survive, he can live even on Mars. Released in 2015 and based on Andy Weir's best-selling novel The Martian, this film holds an impressive 8.0 IMDb rating, a true testament to one of the most inspiring survival stories ever told.